I'm going to slice my cake here. That is 9 inches, two 9 inches cake, and I'm going to use serrated knife to cut it in half. And I'm slowly turning the cake. You should turn the table, not the cake. But yeah, so, and this is my second cake. Using a serrated knife again, slowly turning the table. You should turn the table to, slice, to cut the cake in half, um, straight, or for even cutting. And this one is going on top of this two 9-inch. This is 7-inch cake. We're going to cut in half as well, and then we're going to fill the cake with our frosting. So here I have chocolate mousse filling. This is going to be the filling of our cake. And so what I did here is I melt the chocolate, and then pour it in the whipping cream while it's still hot, because if your chocolate is cool or cooled down, the tendency is it will be buo-buo. You know, in English, it will be clotted, or it won't be smooth. That's the term, not smooth. So now, this is our last filling, and then we'll cover it with our last chiffon cake. So I'm using chiffon cake here, but you can use any type of cake or any kind of flavor you want, because chocolate, everybody loves chocolate, and it will be perfect for vanilla cake or strawberry cake, or you know whatever cake you like. So I'm placing a dowel because this is a two-tier cake, so I need to place a dowel in the middle of the cake, so that it will support the top. So now what I'm doing here is my crumb coat. I'm coating the cake with the frosting, with a thin layer of frosting, to cover the crumbs, so that it won't affect your finished um, your final frosting later on. So I'm using my filling for my crumb coat as well, as you can see, but you can use your final frosting, final frosting for crumb coating, like white frosting or whatever. It's your preference. So yeah, and now I'd like to start with the side of the cake, at the edges, because it tends to have more crumbs than the top of the cake. So I start with the sides, and then after that I'm going to coat the top thinner than the sides, because it's not so crumbly. And it doesn't need to be perfect, because this is just crumb coat. We're going to frost it later on again, so it doesn't need to be perfect. So after this, we're going to place it in the refrigerator for about 15 to 30 minutes. It's totally up to you, up to your frosting, how it sets. So now we're going to fill our mini cake, our top layer of the cake. with the same frosting and then crumb coat it again as well. And we are back. Our cakes are chilled and we're ready for our final and semi-final frosting. Here I'm going to use a vanilla whipped cream for my top layer of the cake, and I'm just going to cover it as evenly and as lightly as possible, so our customers won't be overwhelmed with tons of icing. So like I said, I start with the middle and then going to the sides and then going to the really side of the cake, the edges, and sealing our chocolate mousse frosting so that it won't poke out, it's not going to see later in our final cake. I'm just adding and adding the icing until I don't see any, or we don't see any chocolate frosting na. After this, we're going to use a bench scraper. Here is bench scraper, or you can use the plastic one because it is lighter. It is easier to have a smooth cake, or you can totally use your acrylic scraper. Totally up to you or what you prefer. And then I'm going to put another layer of frosting to those gaps. If I see kind of like bubbles, air bubbles or gaps in the frosting, you can totally add a little bit of frosting here and there so that it will be smoother. It's not going to be perfect because it is just whipped cream, and it's not going to be sharp edges. But if that's what you prefer, if that's what your aim to do, then you can totally do it. But I'm just going to lightly coat the cake and then make it make it prettier. So I'm going to remove the excess frosting, little extra frosting, and then trying to smooth out the edges of the cake a little bit. Excuse me. And then scraping off again to the top, because the frosting from the sides go up, so it has this is what you call the minimalist Korean minimalist cake. Hirap. Ayoko na talaga mag-English. Char. So now is the final scraping on the top of the cake, and then it's now ready to be chilled after this. And we're ready to coat the cake right there. Our bigger cake, our bottom cake. And this is going to the chiller now. Okay, and then we'll get it when we're ready to pile it up. Put it on top of this cake. So this one, I'm going to coat it lighter than the top part of the cake because we're going to pipe some roses to the side of this cake. I'm using a lightly flavored vanilla whipped cream with a little bit of strawberry flavor and then little bit of pink food coloring because this cake will be a pink themed Minnie Mouse Minnie Mouse themed cake na color pink because the client requested it to be pink, not to be red. Okay, so that's what we're going to do today. I started with that from the top and then pushes the whipped cream to the sides so that we're not going to add more frosting unlike the other one that we did because this one guys will be lighter. I would like to call it my semi-final coat because my final coating will be the roses or the rosettes. Okay, so like the other one, we're just going to slide our spatula, glide our spatula before we use our bench scraper. Okay. I highly recommend you guys to use a bench scraper or acrylic scraper for your cakes because it is so much easier. You guys should try it. Okay, so much easier to have a, straight edge, not sharp edged because mahirap yun eh. Matagal. It will took you like 30 minutes to 1 hour if you're aiming to have a sharp edge cake. So we're not going to do that today. So now I'm using a 1M tip for my rosettes or roses. I would like to call it roses, not rosettes, because it is bigger than rosettes, so it makes sense, right? So we're going to start in the middle and then all the way through the sides to make our roses. Yay! So we're going to cover it. We're going to cover it with roses. So I decided to pipe some shells on top of the roses because I can see some gaps on top, and I think it will be much prettier if I pipe some rose shells shells on top of the roses. Okay, so here is our bottom layer of the cake and it's all done. Yay! So now we're ready to place the top layer of the cake in here, and as you can see, I didn't put a middle dowel to support the both the top and the bottom cake. Why? Because this cake is going to travel just nearby. So if I'm going to be delivering this from a much far so malayo, then I will definitely use a dowel that will support my top layer of the cake and all the way to the bottom of the cake so it won't slide. Okay, So here is our cake, and I'm just going to put some characters, stick some, characters like whatever. So now we're going to frost our cupcakes. I'm going to show you how I frost, and yeah, just how to frost. Because as you can see, I leave spaces in the middle of my cupcake because we're going to fill that with chocolate ganache as well. And I'm using vanilla and strawberry whipped cream as well for my cupcakes for color variation. And then I'm not going to show you na how to fill this with chocolate ganache because that's super easy. You're just gonna need a piping bag and chocolate ganache, and then fill those gapses, and voila, you're going to have your cupcakes filled. Okay, so this is our final product, and it will be delivered later on. So happy birthday, Adelia, Priscilla. Thank you so much guys for watching. See you on my next one. Bye bye.